This is Jack Bourne, founder of Deadline Funnel. I'm here with Nagina Abdullah. She's a client of Deadline Funnel, and I believe that we had chatted on either support or through live chat previously, and then I was looking something up on one of my favorite podcasts, and I said, "Hey, I recognize that person," and I reached out to you and sent you an email. And that's how we got into this conversation about maybe we should do an interview about how you're using Deadline Funnel in your business. And I think everyone needs to hear your inspiring story. So I want to make sure that everyone hears about your story and how you got into creating a course. And maybe that's where we should start. So first of all, thank you for your time and sharing your story with us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. And it's so nice when you're reaching out by email and then to actually start to get to know someone. But you've always been so helpful with all of my questions for Deadline Funnel. Like right at the last moment, I have so many questions and you'll always get back to me. So it's so great to have that.
Well, we're here to make sure that everyone is able to set up their funnel. So happy to help. So take us back to your story. Share with us some of the story that others might not have heard of if they haven't checked out Side Hustle Nation, which is a great podcast, by the way.
Yeah, well, I started my blog, which is called, and now my business, masalabody.com, as a result of a personal transformation. So I lost 40 pounds through eating really delicious foods that I mixed with spices that I knew about since I had grown up with them. And I actually was a follower of Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Body. So I started following what he was saying, but then adding some of the spices that I knew about. And what happened is, like, I had actually been struggling my entire life to be at a weight that I wanted to be at. And after I had 2 kids, it was really hard to get to a place. And it was even harder after 2 kids. So I had a very demanding management consulting career. I was traveling all the time. So that's why I started following Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Body, but I started mixing it with the spices. Before I knew it, I had lost 10 pounds in 1 month. And then I lost 40 pounds in 9 months. And everyone around me started asking me what I was doing and how I was doing it. So I started blogging about some of my healthy recipes. And then I started talking more about some of the other things that get in our way in terms of getting healthier, like mindset and social situations and travel. So I started writing all about that. And I started a high-end premium coaching service where I coached other ambitious women on how they could lose weight. And I would give them an exact plan, exact everything of what to follow. And that program showed me I actually was able to coach over 50 women and help women lose up to 40 pounds in my one-on-one coaching. And that's when I decided to launch a group program where I could share my knowledge and get results for more people at once. And as a result of the popularity of my spices, I created a program called spiceyourselfskinny.com. And it's an 8-week program where I help women lose weight through meal plans, community support, and really step-by-step directions on how to do it. And that's where I started using Deadline Funnel as part of that. But and I'll talk to you more about that. But that's really how I'm working on scaling my business, is through that Spice Yourself Skinny group program now.
Awesome. So some of the things that are really interesting about what you just said is that you started sort of with the high end, and then you, in terms of the higher ticket, higher price, more one-on-one type of stuff. Actually, you started with the blog, and then as soon as you productized, you went to the high end, and then you did the group coaching, and now the online training. If looking back at that, I don't know if that was your plan all along, but what was your experience with going in that direction? Was that a positive one to start at the higher ticket one-on-one stuff, or how would you do it? How would you do it differently today?
It was actually my strategy to do it this way. So I knew what I had a goal of the way I wanted to do it. And so what happened is, when I started, I had a small email list. And so in order to really grow myself as an expert, as well as to make significant revenue, I had a smaller number of people that were going to buy from me, which I knew because I was working on growing my list. So I needed to charge higher prices to make significant income right away. Right. And with one-on-one coaching, or even group coaching, whenever there's a personalized element to it, you can charge a lot more for it, because you're not like, as a customer, you're getting a product that's customized to your life. That takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time from someone else, and so naturally you can charge more for it. And so I had a 5-figure price for my first product right out the door. But what I had done first is I grew my audience first for 6 months. So I sent emails, I blogged, I guest posted, I grew an audience. Then I started sharing my one-on-one coaching, and I started getting clients. It took time for me to learn how to get clients. And I got my first client, then I got my second client, then I changed some of my pricing. And I actually was able to get consistent clients where I was making $10,000 a month from one-on-one coaching. And this was like consistently every single month, even more, 10 to 15,000 a month. And at that point I had maxed out my calendar. So I knew there was only so much I could grow with one-on-one coaching. And this whole entire time I also had been growing my email list. So I'd been guest posting, I'd been writing really quality content that was being shared. And so once I had maxed out my calendar, I realized, you know what, now it's time for me to do my group program. I can charge less, but then I'll have more people to buy. And so I've actually, naturally been able to scale up and make, much more revenue. So I went from $10,000 months to now having $30,000 months. Not consistently yet, but that's the goal, to start having consistent months like that as well.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. So a question I have is, when you were first starting out, did you focus solely on just putting out really amazing content, or did you try other things like webinars? I'm just kind of curious what sort of things you tried when you were first getting going.
When I first started, it was all about, making it easy, like doing things that were comfortable to me, because if I took on too many things, it was overwhelming. So I was really getting to know the online world and the online space. So I started with blogging. It's still, writing content is still the foundation of my business, because when you write really good content, and when I say really good, what I mean is it's not like academically really good. It's not an essay. What I do is I really have interviewed and I have listened to my target audience, which is ambitious women. So I really understand their pains. Like I understand their frustrations and their struggles, and I understand their desires. Like they struggle with time. They struggle with finding clothes in their closet every morning, but then they want to be able to wear whatever they want. They want to be able to run a 5K with their family. And so I write about those things, and it really resonates with my audience. It's also because I'm part of my target audience, so I actually know how they feel. But I also talk to a lot of people, and I put that into my emails. So that was really what I did for probably the first year. And then as I was looking to really get consistent with my sales, that's where I started looking into other avenues of bringing in clients. And then I started adding on, first what I did was teleseminars, because it was really because I was nervous about the technology of a webinar. Like I was scared that everything would drop and everyone could see me and they wouldn't be able to hear me. And so I said, let me start slow. I started with email, then I went to teleclasses. So I would do like a teleseminar for an hour, and I would talk on the phone. And I actually that's how I made my first $10,000 a month, was doing a teleseminar and then making an offer during the call for my program. And then after I felt comfortable with that, then I added on webinars, and webinars converted even, actually teleclasses and webinars both convert really well for me. So I started doing those. And now, so after a while, I had a system in place where I would do 2 webinars a month, and I would be able to hit my revenue goals and make that consistent income. So I do a blend of all those things now, but I did definitely take it step by step. And I think that was really, really helpful, is taking it slow and looking at it like a long-term game, not trying to do everything at once, but then adding things on over time and really knowing how effective each piece is in the whole entire spectrum.
Awesome. So take us back to just before you decided that you wanted to look for something that Deadline Funnel solves. I mean, can you put me back in the shoes of where you were at that time, and what sort of problem or pain you were trying to solve when you started looking for Deadline Funnel.
Yes, definitely. So when I was looking for Deadline Funnel, this is when, I had done all those things. So I was working on my group launch. So when I say group launch, it's an online program, but there's an element of personalization because we have a Facebook group. So I call it it's a group program, but it's all pretty much online. Like there's no personalized services. So I was looking at launching that for the second time. And I had actually created a shorter version of my program that is an upsell to my, or not an upsell, sorry, it's a downsell actually. It's like if you don't buy my program, then I usually will offer that to you. So what I wanted to do is I was looking at bringing in people into my launch, like growing my list for my launch. And I wanted to see if the people were actually buyers. Like I wanted to see, because I had some experience where, a lot of times people sign up for your list because they get a freebie, they get something, they just get the freebie and then they're not there afterwards. So I wanted to see, like, are these quality people? So I decided to offer my downsell as a pre-sell. So I sold it like once people joined they got my freebie on my thank you page, I had an offer for a 3-week version of my Spice Yourself Skinny program. It's called Spice Yourself Skinny Jumpstart, 21-day Jumpstart. And on the thank you page, you would get that right away. You'd get that offer. I had like a video, and then you would click on it, and then you would go to my sales page. But Deadline Funnel was connected to it, so I said you only have 48 hours to make this purchase. And so I was really trying to test out my audience at that time, and I wanted to see like how many people were buying. Is anyone buying? And I actually, surprisingly, Deadline Funnel worked amazingly because it's like from every single device that anyone signs on from, they will get the same timing. And so it really would close in the 48 hours for each person. And I did make significant sales that surprised me because I wasn't doing anything, and Deadline Funnel was helping me make those sales because the cart was closing like over and over. Right. So that's really how I started using Deadline Funnels to test out my audience, to see if they were buyers. And then along the way, I also made significant, decent revenue as well. So.
And have you started adding it elsewhere in your funnel, or do you have plans to?
I have plans. So right now I'm working on I'm working on another live launch of my program right now because I'm testing out what's working best. So I'm really relaunching my program multiple times so that I can see what works and what doesn't. And my plans are that after some time, I will consider making it an evergreen program. Right. And so once I start doing that, and once I start even testing that, because I'm going to need to test that out for some time to see how it's working. And that's where I would definitely use Deadline Funnel because I'll be able to offer the course. What I'll probably do is I'll probably offer the course. Some of it will be through Facebook ads. Some of it will be through my list, and go to a webinar, like a webinar from me that'll be automated. And then and Deadline Funnel will be part of that process. So I'll say like you have 48 hours or whatever it might be to make your decision, and then you can join, because urgency is so key. It's so funny. Like on all of my launches, even when I'm doing it live, it's so amazing how only when I offer something that's going to expire, that's when all the sales come in. Like I could be giving the most amazing information for weeks, but nobody does anything until I say, you have to buy now for this free gift, or you have to buy now because the cart is closing. And it even happens to me. Like I don't buy until someone forces me to buy. So that's why it's psychology. Like Deadline Funnel to me, it's not the software that's so incredible, which it works so well. So I love that, but it's the psychology that it's based on. Like it's based on the urgency that you have to put into place to really incentivize people to buy. Even though your product may be amazing, there has to be some reason that person has to buy at that moment, or they might move on and forget about it. So that's absolutely, like, I'm going to start using Deadline Funnel more as I start automating. But right now I do live, I replicate Deadline Funnel live because I'm doing live launches. And so I'm using that urgency during my launches, but I'm not going to be doing live launches forever because I just can't.
Right.
So.
Well, and I want to say what you're doing is really smart. Just this morning, I was telling someone who was asking, should I do an automated webinar or should I do this other thing? And I said, well, it kind of, basically the question was, what converts better? And the answer was, well, it really depends, because there are some webinars that convert amazingly, and then you could have a webinar that doesn't. And my advice was, look, if you're going to go the webinar route, I really recommend that you do several live webinars. Like, keep doing them, because you're going to find, and record all of them as you're doing, because you're going to find that eventually you're going to do one where the sales just rain in, and you just feel in your gut, man, I was on, I don't know what it was, but I just had extra energy and it was just clicking. And that's the one that you want to record. I've never been able to go into a session and script out an automated webinar that I've never delivered before. And I do a lot of webinars, but I've never been able to just sit down and say, okay, this is an automated webinar and I'm gonna create it. And I think it's been the same experience for all the best automated webinars that I've seen. You do them live and you see what works. Like you were saying, you test things out, you try different offers. I just did one recently where I tried a different sequence of follow-up emails, and it had a big impact on conversion. So that's the type of thing where doing it live helps you then take what you've learned and put it in and automate it. So find something that works first and then automate it. So that's really, really smart what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you. And I mean, that's so true. And I mean, I have a quick story about that where during my last launch, I had planned to do, I had 4 webinars that I actually created, like different content for each of them. And so my first webinar, it was called 13 Spices to Spice Off Your First 10 Pounds. Okay, so I did this webinar. It was like Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And then what happened is, of course, like a lot of people on all the different time zones, they wanted me to do it again. So I said, okay, let me do it again. And so first of all, the first webinar I did, it converted like 30% of my overall sales happened on that first webinar. And then I did it again, like on the weekend, and then it converted again. And then I decided to do it on Sunday morning. So Sunday morning I did it, but then something happened to my connection, and it, right as I was about to pitch, like it got cut off. It was like the worst nightmare. Like that is, I mean, it was not good. So it cut off right at my pitch. So then I had to say, I'm so sorry. I'm going to do it again tonight. So in between the time that I did it in the morning, in between the time that I cut it off in the morning and the evening, there was a replay that was going out from the day before. So people were still buying, and then that night they bought again. Okay, so 4 times the same webinar, people bought over and over and over again. And then I did a different webinar the next week, which was called like 8 spicy snacks to spice off your belly or something like that. And nobody bought. Not one person bought. Oh. I did another one it was something around like smoothies, like spicy smoothies. Nobody bought. Then I did an encore presentation of my 13 spices. And again, like huge amount of buyers all again. So that the thing is, a lot of time it's the content in your webinar. So now I know this launch, I'm only doing that 13 spices one. Like that's it. I'm just going to do it over and over again. And once I start to take it, if I do take it to an automated, if I start to automate it, that's definitely the webinar that I would use. So it is so important to test it. There's so many different things that can happen. You have to try it out, and you have to try it out over and over again, and see what works.
Yeah, I want to take a look at this from another angle. So for anyone watching this interview, if you're just starting out and you're either trying a piece of content or a blog post, or especially a webinar, and if it bombs, meaning that people don't attend or people attend but they don't buy, don't give up. It might be that you just need to change the topic. The title of the webinar and the topic is so important. And on top of all the other things that you can do right or wrong in a webinar, even what it's about can make a huge difference, as you just heard.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I've talked about this before, but like when I started growing my list, I mean, it didn't happen overnight. The way that I grew my list really in the beginning was to guest post, and I tried to get my posts, in places that were getting traffic. And so a lot of places I would pitch to, and they would not like hardly anyone got back to me. So I just kept doing it and doing it. And what I realized is like the ones that got picked up, it was like a very small percentage, like probably like 5% of what I actually wrote, what I actually pitched got picked up. But then some of those, like one of them went completely viral. One of them got me like a recurring blog, contributor role. And then, the other ones did fine or something, some did nothing, but like I had to submit it over and over again. But by submitting my guest posts and seeing which ones got published, that is what actually gave me my ideas for what's resonating with my audience. So like one of my articles that went viral was around how these 5 spices helped me lose 40 pounds. And that's one of the ways that I got the idea for my Spice Yourself Skinny program, is because I tried so hard and finally this one angle hit. And then I realized there was so much interest in it, and that led to me creating my program. So it really is about testing things out and not giving up, and just knowing that you have to try to approach it from a different angle. That's it.
So to wrap this up real quick, I was wondering, is there maybe one big lesson that you've learned over the past 6 to 12 months that you're willing to share? And it might be something you've already shared, but you just want to really call extra attention to. Either one.
Yeah. I mean, I really think like for me, okay, my lesson that I've learned is that I now add failure in my process of success. And what I mean by that is like, I have failed multiple times in reaching where I'm at today. And I'm still working on climbing, but every time I create a new program, the first time it's pretty rare if it's successful right away. Like there's going to be something that I have to change. Maybe it's the way I'm selling it. Maybe it's the actual program. Maybe it's the name of the program. Usually the first time I now look at things as a test. Like I put something out there and I say, you know what, I'm going to test out how this works. Whereas in the past, what I used to do is I would put like all of my hope in this product, and I would launch it and I would say, oh my God, I can't wait. Like I'm going to be able to do so many things. I'm going to be able to help so many people. I'm going to be able to go so many places. And then like nobody would buy. And so it made me realize that that's just part of the process, because every time I would fail, I would actually fix something, and then I would get better and better and better to a place where I was almost unimaginable. So it's like now I look at failure and I call it testing as part of my process. And I know that I'm going to have to fail in order to succeed. And that means that people may not buy this time, but then I'm going to change it and then they will, and I'm going to keep growing from there.
So let me ask you a follow-up question to that. You didn't say this specifically, but I'm thinking back to some lessons I've learned. So it sounds like you used to spend more time assuming that something was going to work and building it sort of what I call in stealth mode. And I didn't come up with that. I forget where I picked it up from, but basically you're off building on your own for 3 months or so, and then you release it and you find out, it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Are you now figuring out a way to test a little bit smaller? Like maybe you do a quick webinar on the topic to see if there's any pulse whatsoever. In other words, are you trying to shorten out that testing cycle so that rather than spending 3 months building something, you're doing a quick test and then building on what works?
Yes. Oh my God. Absolutely. That is such a good insight into what I was saying. It's like definitely getting feedback along the way, along the development path is so key. So like, that's exactly what I used to do is I would go like hide and like develop this whole launch and create all this material. And then I would put it out there and then I'd be shocked why nobody wanted it. But now what I do, like this is how I did my Spice Yourself Skinny program, is when I came up with the concept, I wrote about it. Like I have a Facebook group, but you could do it on Facebook. You could do it by calling your friends. You could do it by sending it to your email list. And I asked them, like, what do you think about this program? What do you think about this? What do you think about using spices for getting, for losing weight? And what would you want to know inside of my program? Like, what would you want to know? And I gave them 3 suggestions. So then people responded, like there was a lot of interest. And then I realized even the question was generating interest. So let me build on this. Whereas if even your question doesn't generate interest, maybe you need to come at it a different way. So it's definitely asking questions, listening to the exact words that your audience is saying when they're responding to you, like exactly what they want, like what are they looking for? You have to talk to them in their own language and then use that in your marketing copy. So it's really about, like, it's definitely about that. So right now I'm actually testing, I'm starting to create a concept for a new product right now. It's going to be a higher end, a program geared towards busy, ambitious women specifically. And I'm like just talking to people right now and really trying to understand what they want, to figure out how I can angle it. But I'm going to do so much more testing this time because that's exactly what I lacked the previous times.
Yeah. So one little extra tip I'll throw in is that if you can, this is something that scares a lot of people. In fact, it scares anyone, is getting on the phone for even 10 minutes with 5 people, because you don't, unlike a survey, when you have 5 conversations with people who are your potential ideal target market, just 5 conversations or 10 conversations is going to give you so much feedback and information about what you learned. And I'll throw this out there. A great book that I don't hear enough people talking about is a book with a really weird title, but it's called The Mom Test, MOM. And the whole idea is that when you go and ask your mom, like, hey, I've got this great business idea. What do you think? She says, oh, that's wonderful, honey, because she wants you to feel good about it. So the whole concept is, how can you structure your questions in a way where even your mom would give you valuable feedback? Like she's not going to tilt the answers based on wanting you to feel good about yourself. So it's a really good book. Well, listen, yeah, I really, really, really appreciate your time. This has been great information. You've been extremely generous with sharing what worked in your business and your path. Really inspirational, both the origin story about how you were able to transform your life, and then also how you took that and turned it into a business. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been so nice.